In today's video, I want to share 5 things I wish I knew before starting my business. So this video is actually inspired by my last video, which was things I wish I knew when I was younger. A lot of you guys liked that video, so I thought this was a really great topic, especially useful for anyone who wants to start their own side hustle or business or blog or YouTube channel or whatever it is you want to do if you're in the healthcare field. There's a lot of things that you learn along the way that could have helped, so I want to share them with you. I think the first one, which is the most important I want to start with, is going with your gut. When I started, pharmacy school was on its own. That was my initial career, and then when I was switching over into digital content, I was working with a team who wanted to brand me very differently than I wanted to brand myself. Basically, I wanted to just be myself, because obviously you dress and act and portray yourself in a way that you like. And I thought it would make most sense for me to just be myself, and also I felt more comfortable talking, being on camera. But the team that I was with thought that maybe it wasn't as relatable to like the whole world, and they were like, you have to make sure you can connect with this person. Basically wanted to make it as like neutral and flat as possible, and we would even get into discussions on like how they wanted me to dress differently. And honestly, I knew the whole time that it wasn't me, but it was literally me against like 6 people who were much more successful, experienced in all different areas of business that I wasn't. So I was like, well, they must be right and I'm wrong. It delayed the process. I swear it put me back like a good 1.5 years, because once I realized that like that just was getting no traction. I actually wish you guys could see my videos from back then, which maybe some of you had. They were really bad, embarrassing. It's like really stiff and like trying to be like overly professional, and it just wasn't like natural and real. Once I switched over and just acted like normal and relatable and real and like myself, it worked so much better, because you can't be someone you're not, and you have to always go with what's like what your gut says and tells you, and you can't pretend to be someone else for that long. Eventually it will catch up with you. So anyway, that would have delayed me a lot, and I knew in my gut that it was wrong. So even if you're in a field where you're with like investors or people that are more successful than you, and you think, well, they must know, like if you in your heart don't think it feels right or it's not going to make you happy, then don't do it. So that was one big thing. The next thing would be to double down on your strength and not worry about your weaknesses. So there's been so many times, especially if you are going into like the social media world, the digital world, where like you're kind of not comparing yourself, but it's easy to compare yourself to other people who are doing similar things, and everything's so much more visible now, right? Like we can see everything on Instagram or Twitter or whatever. It's easy to see what other people are doing and like want to do it and wonder why you're not as good as them. That makes sense. I would look at a lot of other bloggers and I'd be like, wow, they like edit their photos so nice, or they pose so well, and they dress so well, and like their pages are so artistic. And I was trying so hard to do that, but I'm not an artistic person. Let me just tell you, like I wasn't good at art class when I was in elementary school. I'm not artistic. It's not me. And I think that all kind of has more of an artistic spin. But what I am good at that a lot of others weren't is like my knowledge in health and wellness, and articulating it well, and my captions are much longer, and there's things that I'm better at, things that they're better at. And if you just double down on your strength and don't stress over the things that you're not as good at, you will get so much further, because there's always someone that has their own thing that's better than you at something, or you're better than them at something. And it just wasted a lot of my time and energy, and it also wasted a lot of my efforts doing something that isn't going to get me to where I want to be as quickly. Like if I were to sit here and spend all my energy into taking really cool fashion shots and like trying to be a fashion blogger, like I think I have good style, but I definitely don't think that I'm, at that level of like a stylist or like, being a fashion blogger. I wouldn't be as successful at it, and I would be taking away things like, almost like taking away from the strengths that I do have. And everyone has their own gift and strength. And if that's what you can focus on and build on, then you'll be much more successful. So find what kind of lights you up and what you're good at, and just go with that. The next one I would say is action versus ponder. So this kind of goes back to when I was like working with the team, that everything was a little bit more delayed, and they were branding me differently. And I remember like them saying, not that them blaming this on anyone, because these were my choices too, but I remember we didn't want to put my website out or social media out until it was absolutely perfect. We thought we were gonna like go out in this bang and we're gonna present this website to the world, like everything's gonna happen, and nothing happened. You know, went out into cyberspace and we got no traction. That's like what happened initially. Whereas before, if I would have, I just think like, oh my God, that whole year that I was like building up this big thing that I thought was gonna be so cool to like surprise people with and make sure it was perfect. If I had just been like posting on social all year and building up content and making like little videos and not worrying about being so perfect, which I think this actually comes from being a perfectionist and not just like taking action, like how much further could I have been? Like I would have been like 1 year deeper in, like whatever, just been further along. And of course we all have things we wish we knew and we did differently, but that's a really big one. Just go out and do it. If you make mistakes, it's okay. And in fact, in this world, I don't know, this, I'm trying to apply these to any kind of business, but definitely in this kind of documenting everything world and digital media world, mistakes are relatable and people like it. So just documenting your journey and kind of showing the little bloopers along the way and not focusing on perfectionism, because nobody's perfect and people like to see that you're not perfect. That's what I wish I knew. So I would have done much more action instead of just like pondering, waiting, is it going to be perfect? Is it going to look like this? Because it just didn't matter in the end. The next thing is delegating, and this one kind of has two categories. It's delegating, but also understanding everything. So when I was first starting, I remember thinking, okay, I need a photographer, and which is great. Like again, delegating is good if you know that you're not good at something. I wanted a photographer. I wanted to make sure I had someone like do the back end of my website or the back end of my YouTube. And while I think delegating is so important, because if I were to spend all of my time on YouTube backend and tagging and SEO and then uploading and video editing and doing all that, I definitely wouldn't be able to focus more on my strengths. So even though that's a little bit of initial investment at first, I think it completely takes you further. In fact, when I first tried to start YouTube, I was trying to film them myself because I was like, okay, a lot of people do this. Put up the camera. The process, I have so much respect for everyone who edits their own videos. It's not my strength, and I'm the first one to admit that. The process of taking the footage from the camera and getting it onto the computer to send to my editor was so mind-numbing for me. It would be like uploading for 4 hours and it would crash because I didn't have enough memory on my laptop. And honestly, the stress that caused me, I was like, I can't. I'd rather pay someone to do it and take that 4 hours and work in the pharmacy and make that money, because it's not worth like my time there. So delegating, as soon as I decided to have someone like Cameron help me edit, film my videos, and then send it off to an editor, that immediately just got like my production value went up. I felt like the content got so much better. I started growing more, so that was great. But I will say, even when you delegate, it's so important to understand every aspect of your business, because nobody will ever care as much as you do. That's the whole reason it's your business. Like, no one should ever care. You should care the most. It's your thing. And I wish that back in the day, I kind of learned a little more about photography, about video editing. I tried to improve a little more in my artistic skills, because now I'm doing it and I have gone through so many different delegations of like, I'm gonna have this person help me like color edit or do this. And then once I learned it myself and I kind of learned Lightroom and Visco, now I do it all myself because I like it, and I can delegate it if I need to, but I know that if I want to do it, I can. And it also helps you delegate better. So if you know how to upload the video, how to tag, and how whatever, you can make sure that whoever you're working with, you can kind of give direction to and tell them which way you want to take it, how you want to go. And you can also make sure that you're always keeping, track of whoever's working for you. Like, if you don't know what you're doing, then anything, like in the past, my editor could have been like, oh, this video takes like 5 hours to upload, so I'm gonna need to get paid this. And you'd be like, okay. But if you do it yourself and this will just keep you smarter and more savvy in business, depending on who you decide to work with. So it's just super important to, just know every aspect. And the last one is calendaring. So this applies to anyone. I did talk about this in my productivity video. It seems so simple, and I don't know why I'm sharing this, because for the longest, like, it literally wasn't until a year ago that I started going with the calendar. And I have like my assistant Julia working for me now, and she kind of changed my world with that, because I'd hear people say it and I would try and I would add it in, but it just wasn't clicking for some reason. And now everything I do in my day is on that calendar, and it even helps you in your day-to-day life. We put in like all my phone calls are like in yellow, all my doctor's appointments are in blue. We have, even if I'm working with a brand and have to produce a video for them, we have like the dates that I have to get them, deadlines, everything is on there. I have a phone call with a friend today scheduled for 3:30. Things that I would always just forget. I actually tend to be a bit forgetful. If I schedule something and don't write it down, like most of the time I'm gonna forget. Like I'll leave something when I leave the house. I seem like very like put together and responsible, but I'm naturally just like very forgetful. So this has been a huge help for me. Although sometimes even when it pops up in the calendar, I miss it because I don't know why, but calendaring is super important. I really like Google calendars, and I really like that you can do it from your computer. I don't like constantly like bending over on my phone. My thumbs get really sore, kind of going off on a weird tangent here. But I do like that Google Calendar you can do from your Gmail account, because I think sometimes it's just faster to type it. So learn that. If you don't know how to calendar, I should have done this too. Just go on YouTube and find a tutorial. You can find a million step-by-step with like probably all these functions you didn't know that it had. So definitely get into that. And these are just things that, little structural things that I think would have helped along the way. I think anything like that you start new is a like trial and error process, and I feel like maybe in a year or two I should make this video again and be like, other things I wish I knew along the way. You're always learning, so it's okay. But anything I can do to help anyone else starting, I hope that will, just help someone. So if you guys like this video, let me know. I know it's not fully on the topic of health and wellness, but I like to mix it up a little bit. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.